Good morning, Hoot Nation. I'm Matt Donnelly, and that chill you are feeling is not Joe Cool. It's not Frostbite. It's Jake Frost nipping at the playoffs for the Cincinnati Bengals. Jake Browning has now led the Bengals to back-to-back wins over the AFC South after throwing for 275 yards, tossing 2 touchdowns, and running in another one to run the Bengals record to 7-6. The only thing Browning didn't do on Sunday was properly hydrate to avoid cramping in his right hand. In his 3 starts, Browning has a 79.3 completion percentage, which is the highest completion percentage by a quarterback in his first 3 starts since 1950. Heck, only he and Chad Pennington have a 70-plus completion percentage and a 95-plus passer rating in each of their first 3 career starts, again dating back to 1950, courtesy of NFL 345. Browning is now 2-1 under center and has a passer rating of 110.9, that completion percentage nearing 80%, and he has averaged 9.1 yards per attempt, which are statistically better than what Joe Burrow had been able to do. Now the Bengals, they are getting contributions from everybody. It wasn't Jamar Chase this week, but the entire cast contributed. That offensive line has played much better since Burrow went down. We also saw Chase Brown step it up in a big way. 3 catches, 80 yards, including the 54-yard pass and catch that went for 6. Brown also had 25 yards rushing on 8 carries to add to Joe Mixon's 79 yards on the ground, while he also added 46 yards in the passing game. Mixon and Brown over the last 2 games, you want to know what they've done? They've combined for 408 total yards and 4 touchdowns. Higgins, he also got in on the act, hauling in 2 passes for 72 yards, which was more than enough offense this week to make up for Jamar Chase's 3-catch, 29-yard performance. We talked about on the preview show that the Bengals secondary needed to find a way to contain that Colts passing attack, something that they have struggled with much of the season. On Sunday, they held Gardner Minshew to 240 yards passing on 26 of 39. That bend but do not break mentality, that carried over to Michael Pittman there, who managed to catch 8 of 11 targets for 95 yards, but he did not score. That's what matters here. Cincinnati's run defense also came into question prior to this week's contest. A run defense that was allowing 4.68 yards per carry and a league-high 2.08 yards per carry before contact. Yet, they managed to hold Zach Moss to just 2.2 yards per carry and 28 yards rushing on 13 attempts. Now this Bengals defense, it picked off Minshew, but more importantly, they sacked the Colts signal caller 3 times, and Trey Hendrickson, who came into this game with at least half a sack in 10 of 12 contests this season, added 2 more sacks, which we talked about was another key to this contest. Now, with 13 and a half sacks, he sits only behind Khalil Mack, who has 15, and TJ Watt, who has 14, when it comes to sacking the quarterback. But the rest of the mainstream media, they continue to sleep on him. And next week, Hendrickson faces a Vikings offense either led by Nick Mullins or Josh Dobbs, an entire right side and offensive line that is going to be either completely rebuilt or less than 100%. As long as Hendrickson continues to play the way he has, he can basically steal as many of Jamar Chase's sour Skittles as he wants. Now with their win over the Colts, both teams share identical 7-6 records, along with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Hoston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, and the Denver Broncos, and they sit just 1 game back of the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cincinnati is in a pretty good position when looking at their remaining schedule, with a matchup against that Vikings team that just scored 3 points against the Raiders, followed by the Steelers and the Chiefs on the road before hosting the Browns in Week 18. Now, every team ahead of the Bengals has to deal with issues. Jacksonville, they lost Christian Kirk for the season. Trevor Lawrence is playing on 1 ankle there, which seemingly did affect his play. The Browns, they're trusting their playoff hopes in Joe Flacco, who, in his defense, did have some elite-type moments there last week, but he's still Joe Flacco. Pittsburgh, like the Browns and the Bengals, they're putting their playoff hopes into their backup quarterback's hands, as Mitch Trubisky looks to be under center again this week after losing to Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots just a week ago. Now for the Houston Texans, they are going to be likely without Nico Collins. They already lost Tank Dell the previous week, and CJ Stroud, he's in that concussion protocol. So all kinds of things are up in the air for the Houston Texans. Meanwhile, when it's all said and done, this Broncos team may be playing the best football of anyone in this group, and they've got their eyes set on the AFC West trailing the Chiefs by just a game, and they've split that head-to-head so far. Now, Mahomes just needs to shut up and play. It ain't the refs, it ain't Taylor Swift, it's all the dumb penalties costing you wins right now. The Bengals, they're still on the outside looking in, and they need some things to go their way over the next 4 weeks here, as they only hold that tiebreaker over the Buffalo Bills. They've already lost both their matchups to the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they're going to need some help from some of their friends. Every week is a one-game season from here on out. Believe in this Bengals, the cardiac cats, they ain't dead yet.